Goes live.
He's live? We's live?
Yes. Audio should
We's
be
live.
We're live. Do.
We're live.
Post the tweet. Do.
Baby shark.
Have you seen that yet, Viru?
What exactly?
So it started with last week when I made a comment how Zabathoon's viral chant is an earworm. And Blue and Orchid took it upon themselves to create a baby shark version of Destiny. And
Black Flag's so pissed.
Yeah, my wife was even laughing about it. I showed it to her earlier. She's just like, that was well done. But Jay sent me the audio to it today, and I was like, you know what? I was gonna do something productive for the show.
It's all your fault.
This is so good, though. I rickrolled the community on Twitter, though. Especially the lore community, because I set it up to be like...
Apparently, Elaine died laughing.
Oh, good. Good. Bife just he didn't even like the original tweet. He just liked my "you're all insufferable" tweet afterwards. I'm like, all right, Bife. I was trying to convince Log and DDU to play it
as their exit
during
song.
DDU. Oh god, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Oh man. Sorry, Black Flag. I had fun. I had fun with it. I'm getting tweets like, I'm so upset that I clicked on this, but I can't stop laughing.
As an uncle who still has nightmares. My 9-year-old son's review. That was weird, but also funny. Yep, done. Retiring now.
Yep. It's good stuff.
I got you baited. Oh
my goodness. Sorry, Pence. I actually sent it to Pens directly. I needed to know if it was head desk worthy.
Head desk worthy. That should be like an achievement emblem appearing in a gameplay.
I might. Oh, right? You know what? That probably is the next GIF that we need to put on our streams. Is Pens broke the desk. Achievement unlocked.
like
beep boop.
Like a progressive achievement for triple cringe, quadra cringe, and then head desk worthy.
I'm writing that idea down. Unlocked. There we go.
So last time my stuff crashed. So I hope you can do a...
Yeah, I can record it on our end. That's not a problem.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I should sound better. I have a studio mic since last time, so...
Yeah, it does sound really nice. You're nice and clean.
Sound like a god.
Speaking of sounding like that, Mylan's reaction to Bife's video.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Beautiful. It's the one where he puts the box on his head. He's like, "Oh, it's an excellent thing." Also, my response. It's one of his go live tweets. It's like Anna watched it and she's like, "They're friends, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're really good friends." She's like, "Okay, that's good."
It does come across a little cheeky.
His video has taken over the logarithm. It owns the logarithm.
3 hours later. Yes, it is funny, good stuff. This is absolutely fantastic. I love it, and now my clan hates me. I love it. When you break Twitter for a little bit. Okay, so League of Legends.
Yes.
League of Leg.
LOL.
League of Leg. LOL.
Yeah, leg. Either with A or with E.
All right. So,
League of Leg.
do you want to jump into the intro session? Get the ball rolling on this one.
Sure.
I'm good.
All
whenever
right.
you guys are.
Perfect. Let me get this thing recording. All right, here we go. Oh, let me show the recording screen. Did that work? No, it didn't. Bless. Aha! That's why, because I have it hidden. There we go. Okay, now we're good. We're good. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on July 3rd, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring League of Legends, which is a departure from Destiny because we are going to go back to extra lore for this week. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. I promise this time there is more than two of us. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the earworm soothing, viral transmission creating, lovely, utterly devious.
Do you have a random generator for these names? Like that just spits out every... Oh, okay.
I'm gonna have to figure out a way to play the song behind your intro. Is it but and last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host and pretty much the person you're probably gonna be listening to mostly the next couple episodes, we have our good friend Dancing Viru. Viru, how are you doing tonight? This afternoon? I can't. You're ahead of us, right? You're across the yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a sci-fi world.
Okay. How's tomorrow doing?
It's the Earth is flat. No. I thought I thought this podcast could gain some flat Earth believers as in the community.
So, talking about flat earthers. I saw someone's. Oh my god, I love the jokes, but someone had a picture of like the guy that's like freaking out, and it's like the picture of a flat earther's face when he realizes that he's breathing in the atmosphere. Green's like I'm going to kill you.
I'm just shaking my head.
No, you don't understand. That's because the government made it that way. It looks like a sphere, but it's
oh my god! I could.
We
could put League of Legends on the side and just talk about the hilarity that is flat Earth. By all means.
This podcast is gonna be all about convincing you that Earth is flat.
That is like one of my guilty pleasures is watching them just try to defend themselves, and it's just like, no, it's not how that works, dude. But oh my god.
No, it is past 5 a.m.
Well, that's good. At least it's not before 5 a.m.
Yeah, I guess. The thing is, with the pandemic situation and the threshold between allergy season and the summer heat, it is kind of difficult, especially with my autism. I can't remember when I'm walking through naps, not really sleeps.
Yeah. I've
Because,
had stages of those.
yeah, because of the way my mind works, no matter what happens, how tired I am, I always wake up over something after 4 hours. And then initially after a few hours fall asleep again if
Right.
depending on time if I want to. And yeah, it's kind of weird experiencing the week instead of its days,
Right. Yeah. No, I can only imagine. I'm sure Green's gonna have a couple questions for you here in a second, but I wanted to lead off. Where can we find you on the internet? I know most people who are familiar with our Discord probably recognize your screen name at least.
Yep.
But where else can we find you?
So I have started some pay-in theories in my OnlyFans. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, people can find me under like pretty much Dancing Beru almost everywhere, on Twitter, on YouTube, and yeah, up until recently on Mixer as well. But I'm gonna discontinue that.
Yeah, that's a thing right now, isn't it?
Yeah, and on Twitch I stream games every now and then. Used to be quite a lot of League of Legends. Right now it's like a specific mode of it that we're gonna get into, as well as Magic the Gathering and this weird game called Destiny. I don't know if your listeners have heard of it.
The
it's
dead one?
Yeah, it's like it's I heard the games that are usually streamed the most are the dead ones, including the game that we're gonna talk about, obviously.
Which also sits at the top of the directory 90% of the time.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't remember it ever not being at the front page.
Yeah, it's mostly, I think, because how well structured and developed its esports community is, and all the esports events. And if I'm not mistaken, there was just one like a spring cup or something, or is still ongoing.
Yeah, cool. Because I remember when I first got that's actually kind of how I got introduced into the League of Legends, hype train. Basically, was the music and the cinematic shorts that they do for all their characters, which are it's up there with Overwatch quality in my opinion. I'm sure some people are gonna get offended, but it's amazingly well done. Their animation, and then how the story and the narrative is carried from literally from season to season. There's developments within the story within the champions, and I remember getting into the origin of these different champions. And I have never played League of Legends ever. I have no interest in playing League of Legends because I'm not a big fan of the genre. The what's it called? It's not a tower defense, but it's the lane thing. I don't understand it.
We're gonna get into that.
Yeah, to me that makes no sense. I'm I don't know what I'm supposed to click, but something blew up. But I remember the music, and then I remember watching the opening acts for what was the year? I think it was a couple years ago when they did the ARG headset with the dragon, where they had the dragon that took over the arena. And I'm it was insane how much production value and how much work went into this, just the opening act for this game. It's a video game, competition basically, which for those who aren't super invested in esports like myself, I'm oh, this is actually really, really super serious. I never had that to me those are two wires that never get really connected ever. I know logically that it's very big, but I don't pay attention to things like that. So
yeah. Does anyone know the band Against the Current?
Yes.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the lead singer, Chrissy Costanza, she's in love with League of Legends, and there's been like multiple collaborations between them, including her singing stage on the finales of League of Legends
Nice.
Championship, and she also I can't remember if she still does, but she used to stream as well, including in like one of her champion overalls.
Oh wow.
And there's also another streamer, Nikki Taylor, who also she's also a singer, and she's also been included in the events with her music. And if I remember correctly, one of the songs from Against the Current actually made it into the official soundtracks of League of Legends.
Yes, actually, because I believe that's how I actually found out about them. I was looking through it. They actually have. I mean, like again, not something
that was last year, I believe.
Like not something I would normally associate with video games, but their competition songs are like the theme song for that year, because they had Zed. Zed, I think, was like 2017 or 2016, and then they did the mashup for the KDA thing, which a lot of people are familiar with. Which is not a band, but it is a band. It's like a weird thing. That was like was that 18? Was that 2018 that they did that in?
It was definitely before last year.
Right, because it was the same year that they did. Oh God, I just blanked on the. But yeah, I mean, like the music. Actually, I've actually found artists from the opening ceremonies watching of the League of Legends stuff, which is interesting. It's an interesting path to take to discover somebody.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how long has League been around? Because I don't even know when it was originally released at this point, because it's always been there in my mind. Like
it first hit the scenes in like 2009.
Yeah, 2009.
Okay. So
I was still
was
in
pre-alpha
11 years.
What, yeah, okay. I mean, last year there was the 10-year anniversary stream.
Right, that's right. Okay.
Where they finally revealed all the other plans they had for their portfolio, and also spin-off games. And yeah, so I think up until 2010 or 11, it was like in beta.
Okay.
Until the official launch. So I got into League 2014. No, 15. Okay. Yeah, 2015. Because I remember 2014, I was with my friends, with my IRL friends, to Gamescom the first time. 2014, and that was also the year when Destiny 1 was released. And that was mainly like one of my reasons to go to Gamescom, to like experience that like in a convention. It's also where I found out about my autism, that autism and conventions do not go well together. Yeah, I mean, I can like conserve myself and focus if I know that it's gonna be for 1 to 2 days, and then I can manage it. But something I realized was when I'm so mentally occupied with all these venues and all these stands and all these exhibitions with the games, I forget. Like my mind does not comprehend that my legs are very tired. And the moment when I sit down, everything hits at once. And yeah, at least now I know how I can navigate it. But yeah, that was really interesting. What was also interesting was during Gamescom 2014. So we weren't into League of Legends yet, but there was like a big League of Legends event going on, and we were actually kind of like impressed by it. It was like really like a huge deal. And then at the beginning of 2015, like I remembered into February, like one of one of our friends got me into League. Like then one by one we tried it out, and then like for a whole year we've been playing it daily. And at first, looking at the lore was really overwhelming.
Okay.
So I just didn't do it and just enjoyed the gameplay. And as I learned more about the game, I realized there's been a lot of changes. Especially if you Google like the early pre-alpha or beta state of the game, especially like a screenshot, like an in-game screenshot, you can see like the artistic differences to now. Now it's like it has like a unique graphic style. Like it gains it.
I'm sorry. Was the graphics originally similar to what Dota was? Or did they completely shift away from their really, really hard just because of the relation between the two?
I believe so, yeah. It definitely didn't look like... It looked like generic. Okay. Definitely. And I don't know if... I haven't looked into Dota for quite some time. Maybe they've already had an artistic shift. But yeah, like right now, the graphics of League of Legends has its own identity, and what's really impressive is in terms of gameplay and client, it's always been the same. There's been like continuously updated, and it is like you can play it on a toaster because it doesn't take much resources, and yeah, it is a very special game. I think if you want to trace back where the game came from, I think you can look almost back to Warcraft 3.
Yeah, because that's where Dota spawned from, really, was...
Yeah.
It became... Well, because it was Warcraft 3, and then Defense of the Ancients was like a derivative of Warcraft. But
yeah, it was like a standalone mod.
Right, yeah. And then they basically... It was so successful that I think that's when... Because I think Dota 2 is still around, but it's just not as like most people aren't as familiar with it because Riot Games is the developer producer of League of Legends, and they're just they're just really good at putting their product out where the average person will see it. And that's I think that to me was like the thing that was kind of one of the nails in the coffin, if you will, for Dota, was Riot Games just nailed the generation of hype for their product, and they just know how to market. Really.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think maybe one of two of the original developers of League came from Dota.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And I think Dota, it is still popular, but I think mainly it's during the tournaments because while the production value of League of Legends esports scene is quite massive, I think Dota still has the largest prize pool.
Oh, okay. That would actually, because I mean, I think Valve backs Dota.
It's an IP of Valve.
Yeah, so that doesn't. To kind of go back to League of Legends, kind of with the intro piece, especially, we usually try to do what we refer to as the cocktail knowledge of stuff. I know, so like the big thing with League, right, is it has a narrative, and it's actually, you kind of mentioned this, it's a very vast narrative. And then part of the reason is that, as far as I understand, there is not a central character. Like, I think this January there's registered over 148 champions, which champions are basically the player characters that you control.
The playable characters,
right. Yeah. And so there's over 140 of them, and each one of them, they correct me here, but they all have their own narrative, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm
like,
sorry.
yeah. They and they're
140 characters. No, I'm just thinking, not even from a narrative perspective, like the uniqueness of each character and how they perform and how you balance out a team must be.
Well, and actually that's
ridiculous.
where it's ingenious, because each of the characters, like, they're not cookie cutter into specific archetypes, but there's like, I think there's 5 or 6 archetypes, and the archetypes are very, like, you'll have a champ. My understanding is you'll have a champion that could transcend like 2 archetypes. I don't know if there might be a couple that do more, but like archetypes are really specialized. Like you have an archetype that is literally a glass cannon, and I think we can definitely get into the archetypes like within the advanced episode, because I think that's going to be really more about gameplay. But yeah, like that's the like ingenious thing that League and Dota and all these type of games, they really do have, is that even though you have over 140 characters to choose from, in reality you're really choosing 8. Like you're choosing an archetype to play, and that's where the lanes, like when you start looking at maps and stuff like that, that's where the lanes start coming in play. Because if you go on the top lane or mid lane or bottom, or was it bot lane, I think is the bottom one.
Bottom bot lane.
Those are geared to specific archetypes. And then like there's like the jungle, I think it's jungle, which is the area between the lane. Like there's strategies that are just, I got lost and my head started hurting when I was reading all these different lane strategies that you can do. And then like with League, there's various buffs and debuffs that you can get within the game and stuff like that. It's really actually really interesting. But the reason why it's the narrative is just like massive is because each one of them has their origin story, up until, I guess that kind of transcends into the next thing, is like the 2 settings really that exist. Up until the reboot that happened in 2014, all of these narratives were actually cohesive with each other, and they were all. And the cool thing that I like about the original setting when I was reading it is that the original setting, which was the 2009 to 2014 gameplay, was the narrative actually not only was extremely cohesive, it actually explained the game mechanics within the narrative. It was canonical for the players to be in game. It was like Magic the Gathering, basically. The players who were fighting were referred to as summoners. Now exactly, with the reboot, the summoner logic is still like, that is still there, but the focus has shifted away from the Institute of War and the summoners, which we'll probably get into a little bit, but it's shifted away from them, and actually the reboot focuses almost exclusively on the champions. Problem with the reboot is that now the narrative does not, it's not cohesive with gameplay. Gameplay is separate from the narrative, which is, it makes sense, but it's also kind of sad, because I'm like, oh, well, that means like, because I could see like in the original setting, like, you know, a champion wins, and you see this within like the earlier championships, like you'll have like the character sitting on the throne, but it's actually the champion that he was playing or she was playing. Like that champion became the most powerful character or figure in the game world, and it's just like, that was really cool to see that cohesion between what was actually happening and what was like in reality, plus what was happening in the game world. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So luckily, and I'm gonna especially focus on these things. There are still a few looter narrative resonance happening in game, where it actually, like, the game design actually matches like things happening in the story.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And what I definitely want to go into, like during the intro, I would explain the gameplay to then bridge the gap to the narrative, like as a as a more like a generalized manner, and also like explore the storytelling methods the game has to offer.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we go more deeply into potential characters and the universe itself. So yeah, I think you guys had like this sub-series of Let's Chat episodes regarding game design. You had one about genres. Because this is something that I always had to wrap my head around every time I encounter a new game, and especially with complex games like League of Legends, because I find these kind of things are really mentally stimulating. But what I realized when engaging with the community, there's like so much like different and contradicting terminologies used to describe games. So in the community, it's obviously largely known as a MOBA, a multiplayer online battle arena. I don't find the descriptions of like enough to explain and to like distinct from other MOBAs. Because like Battle Right is also MOBA. Smite, that looks different, plays a bit different, is also MOBA. I think Riot Games calls it an action strategy, which I can see why. So what I like to call for myself is an isometric action RPG MOBA. Isometrics referring to the camera perspective. So it's like a between bird's eye view and a third person in a sense, where the camera is like slightly tilted from bird's eye view, so you can still see building structure like on the sides, and it's also the camera is static, cannot move. I believe Diablo has that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if I remember correctly, like to a degree, the original God of War trilogy, like something I remember.
Yeah, a little bit. I think the other one that comes to mind is Path of Exile, is a more recent, like a free play Diablo.
Yeah, and up until a few generations ago, Pokemon. Until they're like, it seems like they're slowly turning it into a third-person adventure. But yeah, I guess that's where Riot Games calls it an action strategy, because in like the typical strategy games, you have your mouse, like with the cursor, you control your units and you move them by clicking in the direction you want them to go, on the specific location you want them to go, and that's how you control like the champions in the game. And another strategy aspect is obviously to destroy structures. But outside of that, there's nothing in common with strategy games, because in strategy games you will still build structures, which you don't do here. You have here more. League of Legends has more in common with the formula of action RPG that is like boxed into a MOBA. And as you said earlier, Blue, the idea of what the player is in League of Legends, we are all summoners, and we basically summon these champions from a different world. Obviously, Runeterra in most cases. I'm gonna say why it's in most cases at the end of the advanced version.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And this is something where so I wasn't aware of like a major reboot happening. It looks like there's been multiples of like minor and major rewriting of the structure.
Oh,
that
kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and I think they've been consistent since they actually curated this subpage dedicated to its universe, with the universe.leagueoflegends.com. Since the creation of that, it's been consistent, and they also released a book, which I don't have, but that book apparently has the official timeline now.
Okay.
Which is still kind of contradicting a few stuff in the law, but I get into the advanced session into that because these might be artificially constructed loopholes, like purposefully constructed loopholes. Because it's interesting that you mentioned a reboot, because I believe up until that reboot, even like us summoners were actually had a like integral part into the story. Now they seem to be like removed.
Right. Yeah, that was my understanding, was that like the entire point was Valoran was under the Institute of War, and they used the Institute of War to settle disputes and entertain the masses. And so that's where like summoners were basically the gladiators of the Institute of War, which is where the League of Legends name comes from. The Institute of War is called the League of Legends. And so they would use summoners to settle disputes between different groups, countries, what have you. But then they would also use them to do entertainment events, like, competitions once a year that conveniently fell along the lines of reality. Like, it was, they used I really liked how they kind of like explained everything that was happening through a canonical, like, in-game lore. I thought that was really kind of cool.
So here's my question to kind of tie us back into the story a little bit more, is how do the individual summoners become a part of the League of Legends? Like, you mentioned gladiators, and those were enslaved, but with these guys, is it the same concept, or is there a like a pool, a winning pool? Like, is it a enslavement like gladiators, or does it have something different going on?
So yeah, that's like an interesting and unfortunately a conflicting question, because so when I got in, so I never like properly into the law. I like every now and then I read a few things when I was interested in a champion, because obviously these visual themes are very cool. And so every now and then I read something, and up until like last year maybe, and then like at the beginning of this year when I read again, none of that is there anymore. Like the deal about summoners being gladiators and Valorant, yeah, none of that is there anymore. Like up until that point, like I still remember reading about that the summoners might have been like a descendant of like very ancient war, which I also can't find anything about it anymore in the official subpage. And it is quite possible that that they have like something different in mind that might connect back to the original narrative meaning. Because so far with the concept of, especially now that I recently teased the idea that League of Legends now actually is a part of a multiverse. There's still like some ways for like summoners to get like to actually get back into the story. But yeah, with that original meaning and with what we're doing now, that does tie like to the genre of MOBA, multiplayer online battle arena, and it used to have 3 different modes. One of them is the classic, the main one, so to speak, the Summoner's Rift, which is the 5v5 modes. To my understanding, MOBAs are usually always on the same map, depending on the mode. Like if there are multiple modes, each mode usually has like its separate map, but it's not like the classical multiplayer games where you have a rotation of different maps. Here it's always the same map, and I think that's why they're quite prominent in the esports scene, because
the consistency.
The consistency, and it's an easy onboarding experience, and you have in the context of MOBA in League of Legends, you have that map, Summoner's Rift, for 5v5. It's symmetrical.
Mm-hmm.
And like the game decides which side your team's gonna be. Like you're either bottom left or top right, and you basically like play like diagonally, and with the 3 lanes that Blue mentioned earlier. We have the top lane, the middle lane, and the bottom lane. The mid lane, you can actually get like the quickest to the other side, which does affect the gameplay and how it affects the momentum of the team play and such.
Mm-hmm.
And the champions that you summon from Runeterra or others, they are like classified in like there are like 6 classifications, like 6 classes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily agree with the classification. I'm gonna tell you right now why. So these 6 classes are fighter, marksman, mage, assassin, tank, and support. The problem I have with these classifications is like some describe the way they fight, while others rather describe the effects of their mechanics. And it's they did, like Riot Games did like acknowledge that and mention that they will do like a rework of classes, of a rework of classifications to make it easier for the player to understand like what kind of champions.
Is there
to
only a
streamline
certain
the
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I was just going to ask if there's a certain amount of each class that you can have per round, or could you have an entire match of fighters? I know it probably wouldn't strategy-wise be a good idea to do that, but I just remember Overwatch being kind of like the closest approximation to how they have classes now.
Mm-hmm.
You used to be able to play all like sniper type character or the precision shot, and it was just a meme then. I don't know if that's still available in League as well.
Technically, yes, you could do. There's no limitations to that.
Okay.
What's also important to note here is a lot of champions have double classes. Like they have a primary class and a secondary class. Like quite a lot of support. Like support champions are also mages. They're also tank supports. Most tanks are also fighters. They're like mage assassins, marksman assassin, and all these like variations, which like usually reflects the ability they have. So when you have like a group of 5 people, or you get a matchmate with other 4, you usually go into the matchmaking by selecting a role. I can remember, I think originally the game did not specify roles. This is something that the developers like just embraced how the community interacted with it. I think a good comparison is what Bungie did with Gambit in Season of the Drifter, with the role specific armors and the perks, which basically came to be by observing how the community played Gambit, and that's pretty much how the roles came to be. Like at some point there was like a specific way to play games, like an efficient way to play, and that's how at some point, like when I started playing the game, it was already in the game. Like you could go into matchmaking by defining a role for yourself, and these roles are like specified. They are in relation to like which lane you play, and also, as Blue mentioned earlier, the jungle, that is basically the wilderness in between the lanes. And you have one top laner, one mid laner, one jungler, and technically 2 bot laners. And among these 2, one of them is usually the support. And I'm going to tell in a second why there's 2 in bot lane. Another role that's been, I can't remember if that's already like specified in the game or if that's something from the community, the terminology ADC, which means like attack damage carry. So in the game, champions obviously have stats. The way you attack is if you just right click an enemy unit, you like basic attack them. You auto attack them with your basic attacks depending on like what the character is and its classification. This can be like melee attacks with its swords or fists, or like ranged attacks. And that attack has a stat, just called attack damage. The higher the attack damage, the more damage you deal with your basic attacks by just right clicking. And so like you don't have to aim. That's like the basic attack move you can do in the game. And there are like there are champions that are dedicated to that stat, and usually it's those kind of champions that make it into the bot lane. And in the mid lane, it's usually like in mid lane, it's usually champions that have like high burst of damage. Usually the mages and or assassins. Assassins have like high mobility. They have like usual abilities where you like engage and quickly disengage out of the battle. And the reason why they're usually in mid lane is because that's the lane where you can like where you get to the enemy base the quickest. And like from mid to late game, that's where usually the entire team gathers. And the top lane is the top laner is usually like very isolated, and because he's isolated, it's usually a tank that you pick for the top lane, or someone with otherwise like a very sustained damage, so that the top lane can like just like be by themselves without much of a help. And the goal of the game is you have a main structure in the enemy base called the Nexus. The goal is to destroy that, and as soon as you've destroyed it, you basically won. Now the game does not let you just automatically walk towards it and destroy it. There are other structures in across the lanes, and each structure that is standing in front needs to be destroyed first. In each lanes you have these towers that will automatically shoot at the enemy units. These needs to be destroyed until the Nexus is free to demolish. And the Nexus does something to the game. It generates I think they're actually officially called minions. I actually can't remember why they're called minions. So if, I'm assuming that's another thing that the community just embraced as a word and then it made it official.
Are they kind of the grunts are the ones where you just farm them, or?
Yeah, exactly. So these are the PvE ones.
Okay.
And they all spawn simultaneously for each lane. It's always a group of, I believe, 6, 7 of different type of minions, like sword minions and caster minions, and sometimes I think every second or every third wave there's also cannon minions. And they can only do basic attacks, and they do minimal damage, and they all spawn simultaneously from the enemy Nexus as well as your Nexus, and they all simultaneously walk to each of their lane, and until they collide with the other team's wave. And essentially your goal in the game, in order to destroy the structures and destroy the Nexus, you obviously have to become stronger. The game has a level system for each game. You start with level 1, obviously. The maximum is level 18. And you have an XP bar. Every time you kill something, you gain XP, as well as gold. And what's important with gold is that's actually the main reason why you have these minions to farm, as you said. What's important here is, and that's where the first skill comes that you're gonna learn when you go into the game. The ability to last hit minions, because you're not the only one who hits them. Your friendly minions hit them automatically. You don't have any control over that.
Okay.
But you have to be the one who does the last hit in order to get the kill and the gold. Otherwise, it's wasted.
I see.
And obviously, yeah.
I'm sorry. Does it help build any of your cooldowns to get kills? Is it like building super energy almost, or is
no?
it just like gold?
What it does is you have in your base an item shop. And this is where the action RPG aspect has an influence in it. There are a plethora of items you can buy, and these are all to build up your stats, and also to gain some special traits and perks. It's I feel the best way to describe it is, imagine Destiny, but you don't have any weapons. You have basic weapons at the start of an activity, and throughout the activity is where you gain other weapons and mods and experiment with them until the activity is over. While you have your champion with its own unique abilities that are always always already set, and each game is always the same. With the itemization, you can like have a unique gameplay experience each match. Obviously, you can upgrade your items. If you buy, every item starts with like the first tier, like I call it the ingredient items. They provide like some minor bonuses. And as you play, as you gain gold, you can upgrade them. You have like an item, UI, where it also shows like the building path of items, where it shows like how you like which other items you have to build to buy a second tier item and then a third tier item. And initially in the end game, by the time your champion is level 18, you want all your items to be like in the last tier.
Mm-hmm.
You have like 7 item slots. I believe it's 7, yeah. And out of these slots, the slot number 4 is always reserved for trinket. Trinket items, they are now free of charge. They used to cost gold. Trinkets are, there's like a warding totem. There are like I forgot what the name is. There's like a cleansing item.
Okay.
And what those are, throughout the map, there are these bushes. And these have a mechanic. So if you walk into a bush and if you stay there, you are invisible to the enemy team. Unless the enemy team has placed a warding totem in it that is invisible to you, but provides sights on anyone who stands there for the enemy team. And you can place up to 3 of these totems per game. The moment you place a 4th one, the first one will automatically disappear, but they have a cooldown anyway. And that's like a major strategy, to have this awareness, to think about placing wards in all these bushes to gain sight, because this game has the concept of fog of war, where you only see, like, each champion has like a radius of a field of view, and including with your minions, like you also see anything that your minions can see, and you only see like anything your team can see, like your teammates, champions, their view, and everything else that is not covered is like in a fog of war, or like grayed out. And that's why these warding totems are very important to place, in case an enemy champion wants to flank you from like different routes, and then you can see them and alert the team with pings. And the cleansing item can make enemy warding totem visible, and then you can destroy them. And when I say item slots, like these slots are dedicated to the number keys on your keyboard, like 1 to 7, and 4 is dedicated to trinkets. You can obviously like key map all of that when you have a gaming mouse with mouse keys, much more intuitive. But yeah, like the itemization is what gives like each match of League of Legends its uniqueness, because while I'm, for example, a player who's like, I like to like main like a handful of champions. I'm actually quite fine with just a handful of champions, and just like usually play with the same champions. I'm also mainly a support.
Support
But
class, best class.
hell yeah. the reason why I always play support is because I suck and at 1v1s, and healing friendly teammates is easier because you don't have to aim stuff. So
you have more targets and there's less pressure. Why wouldn't you go that way?
Yes, and I won't hurt my teammates.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Speaking of supports, here's the thing: the game knows if champions are in a lane, like in a lane proximity of minions, and there's like a downfall. Like the more champions are in the same lane. So when a unit dies nearby, when a minion dies, anyone in the vicinity, like in the surroundings, will get XP for it. But the more champions are in the surroundings, the more you have to share the XP. And that's like one downside of things. That's why usually when you're like in mid game and one of your teammates wasn't really lucky during the laning phase, then usually they're gonna like isolate themselves in another lane where they're not needed, where they can just farm minions for themselves, and no one is there to like automatically steal the XP gain from minions dying. And the same goes for champions that die. So when you die in this game, you are put on a cooldown before you respawn at your base. The longer the game goes, the longer the cooldown's gonna be. One of the reasons why I took quite a break from League of Legends is if you're evenly matched, and especially if you're evenly matched and both teams make mistakes and can't take advantage of the other team's mistakes, the game can go from 50 minutes to an hour.
Wait. Whoa. I had to unmute for that. 50 minutes to an hour?
Yeah,
okay.
when both
mistakes were made. Mistakes were made.
when both teams are so even, but also can't take advantage of the enemy's team's mistakes, then the game can go. I mean, there's technically no limit. Like, there's no time limit. And yeah, like my friends and I, we had a game where it was over an hour, and we planned to do more matches, but after that an hour plus game, we're done for today. Because if you're I don't know if lucky is the right word, if you get matched with a complete uneven team, like way below your level, the game can be done in 15 to 20 minutes. And usually you can be quite happy with like a 30-minute game, because 30-minute games are usually the ones that can go like either way, and the victory is also satisfying, and as well as the defeat makes sense. And while anything after 30 minutes, like up from 40 minutes to an hour, can be quite frustrating, and even the victory. But yeah, that's why I don't play ranked, because that's a whole different hellscape.
So is that what happens in tournament settings? They just go on and on and on, or is it a little bit more divided then?
So depending on the phases of the tournaments, the stages, you either have a best of 3 or a best of 5, and yeah, it can be quite long. Like usually, especially in I think once you reach the quarterfinal segment, or semifinal, that's where you only have like one official encounter per day. Because of the different because it's a best of 5 and these matches can go quite long, and esport games especially, since it is very competitive, like and very like they're all pro players. They're at least 30 minutes.
Okay.
And
that's about normal for like a lot of esports matches that I've seen.
Yeah. But as you go towards the end of the official tournaments, the game can go longer.
Okay.
Like much longer. And that's where so Riot Games has its own like in-game like on their side like a viewer mode that we get to experience as a viewer on stream, and they have like all these tools where they can also like skip back in time to like repeat what just happened. And then nowadays they also even have tools to like draw things on that, like to like focus like on which champion to look at, to rewatch a scene that just happened. Like usually it's and the highlights are usually when team fights are happening. When the laning phase is over, everyone has like the items they've built, like the main items, and they're ready to like walk through the mid lane to get to the enemy team as quickly as possible. And that's where the highlight happens, where you can that's where the tactical decisions and your like your reactionary skills come into place. And that's also where your chosen classes and abilities like come to fruition, and where you get to shine, because tanks, obviously you want them in the front line, and obviously in turn you don't want to waste your abilities and your attacks on a enemy tank, because your abilities, after using them, they will be put on cooldown for a few seconds. And then you have your assassin who can flank the enemy team by taking a different route. And usually the assassin wants to kill the enemy's ADC, the attack damage carry, who's usually the marksman, because they can just stay behind and they do the highest amount of basic attack damage, and they are protected usually by a supporter who can either enchant their attacks or like heal them. And marksman is like all your typical like ranger, like whether it's a crossbow or like a longbow, a sniper rifle, spears made of souls, your usual ranged items. Now I mentioned there's a jungle. The jungle this is a very special thing, and it's been like reworked over time, every now and then. That's the role of the jungler, and he has a different experience than the laners. What the jungler does is he goes to like clear like little camps of monsters. That's how he gains XP and gold. But also, he when he clears these monsters, he gets like a buff. And then what the jungle usually does is to then gank lanes to help out your laners, and then go back to another jungle camp. And as I mentioned, the map is symmetrical, so any aspect of jungle is also symmetrical and looks the same on the opposite side. As well as the monsters, like there are always like two variations of the same, like in each of the opposite sides. And except for 2 to 3, and this is where I'm going to explain why the bot lane gets to have 2 champions, as far as I know, based on what I've read. So in the bot side of the jungle, there's like a pit, a dragon pit. At some point, that dragon's going to spawn. And there's no second dragon on the upper side of the jungle, and that dragon can give you like a major bonus. And the more dragons you like, these gonna respawn with like different types of dragons, and the more dragons your team has cleared, the more like stackable bonus they're gonna have. And it used to be like just like the same dragon over and over again. Now we have elemental dragons that will take turns in spawning in the dragon pit. We have the mountain dragon, the ocean dragon, cloud dragon, and the fire dragon. And they each gave like a different bonus. So whether it's like your ability power, or like your health, or like your mobility, and they have stackable bonuses. And because that dragon is kind of like a mini boss, like a PvE mini boss, and is in the bot side of jungle, that's why the bot lane needs a second champion, and that's why that the meta has shifted like years ago into the bot lane having the support champion, so that when the jungler needs help for the dragon clear, he can ask the 2 bot laners, and the more champions, the quicker he can clear the dragon. And it doesn't matter which one of your team gets the last kill. I mean, outside of the gold you're gonna get, but all your teammates gonna get the dragon bonus. Now, I forgot to mention something earlier when I said, when Dutch champions who are too close to other champions clearing minions, and by doing so, like forcing the XP to be shared. This also is like it's also like an interesting question for support champions. How do support champions earn gold? Because we support players, we don't get to farm minions. Instead, at the beginning of the game in the item shop, there is a gold income item that we specifically buy. And they're like, basically there are 2 variations. Either you get like a small amount of gold every time you hit an enemy champion, or you help your lane partner by getting by executing minions, and by doing so, you basically share. I mean, it's not actually sharing. You basically copy the gold earning. Like your lane partner gets the gold as well as you, as long as you are the one who executes a minion. But you cannot always do that. You always have like 3 charges, like up to 3 charges of these minion executions, which will like recharge over time. And that's how we support gain our gold. And in the late game, once gold doesn't really matter, once we have all our major item builds, it will get to a point where even the support champion might want to sell their gold item and buy an actual item, and maybe even help with damaging and killing. Because once the game is like in the end game, it doesn't matter if the support champion gets some kills. But yeah, like that's like basically the economy. That's how you get stronger in order to like push forward. Obviously, it is a PvP, like champions killing other champions, but the main object is to destroy structures to move forward until you destroy the nexus. The game also has like an optional like PvE boss battle segment that, depending on if you need it, you can do, but the enemy team has access to that as well. And that's when I mentioned the dragon, I said it doesn't have like it isn't mirrored on the map, but there is a pit on the other side, and that's where the Baron is. He's like the Baron is like a Hydra-like creature, very large. It is not advised to fight him at the beginning. But he gets like a very powerful bonus. When your team gets to kill the Baron, you can you're like slightly empowered with your attacks. But the most important thing is when you walk with your minion waves to destroy the enemy structures, all your minions they are enlarged. And also like that their attacks are much stronger, and as long as you're like in the surroundings, like in the radius, they are empowered and deal much more damage. And that's usually important when you like matched against an even team and you need the Baron bonus to turn the tides, and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's like basically the gameplay aspect of things, and each is one important thing. So each champion, so the typical formula is each champion has 4 abilities and 1 passive ability.
Okay.
Out of these 4 abilities, 1 is obviously the ultimate. And these abilities are on the keyboard. It's the Q, W, E, R. R is the ultimate. I think some like Overwatch players who got into League, they obviously rebind that to Q, with Q being the ultimate, because that's how it is on the PC. And yeah, I said that's the typical formula. Some champions, it's also depending on their lore. They don't necessarily have like your typical ultimates. That like some have instead just like 4 basic abilities instead. Some have this. Some can like morph into another creature. Some are shapeshifters, and so their ultimate is basically to like shift shapes, and once they do that, or shift modes to generalize it. Once they do that, they have a different set of 3 abilities, and then they can hit ultimate again to change back. And then one, for example, Karma. So one of the champions I play as a support, she has, when the game starts, she already has her ultimate unlocked. Because the thing is, you have to unlock your abilities as you level up. Every time you level up, the game tells you like which ability you want to unlock. And once you unlock them, you also level them up. Yeah, like your abilities, you can level them up to 3 to 4 times, I believe. And leveling up basically means each time you level up, your ability deals more damage, and or decreased cooldown, but as well as increased mana cost. Each champion has a resource bar next to the health bar. It's mostly mana. And basically, when you use your abilities, they cost mana, which will automatically start regenerating, but very slowly, unless you build items towards mana, like faster mana regeneration. Then you can like spam your abilities, basically. Spamming, you don't like stagnate with your mana. You also have to consider the cooldown reduction, for which there are also items to build. if you want to, like, together with mana items to like just spam your abilities. And yeah, these abilities, these are like, these can be projectiles, like linear projectiles for which you have to aim with your mouse, like with your cursor. Ultimates can usually be like global, like they have a global reach, and you can like just click on something, or it's like as I mentioned, like an empowering state, or like changing modes, or like usually a one-shot skill shot attack. And the champion I just mentioned, Karma, she has her ultimate already available at level 1, and I get to like unlock another ability, and because her ultimate is basically to give me the option of an empowered one of the 3 empowered abilities, like for the 3 basic ones. So I hit R, I hit ultimate, then within a few seconds I have to decide which empowered ability I want to use. And you have like similar outliers where instead of an ultimate, you have like something different in place. And obviously, when you think about it, a champion who instead of an ultimate changes modes to have like 3 different set of abilities has technically instead 6 abilities. And then passive abilities, these can be this is something that is a bit unstructured, because if you look at some champions have like multiple passives, and they usually work in tandem with either your basic attacks or your abilities. They give some bonus effects, like for example, one champion, like his passive is every time he is in close surrounding when someone dies, he can pull souls from it, and he collects it, and these souls basically convert into armor. Armor is a defensive stat that will basically reduce physical damage. There's also magic damage, usually from abilities for which you also have a defense stat, which is magic resistance. And the other stats you have are, as I mentioned earlier, attack damage, health regeneration, so like how much health you gain back per second when you're not get attacked, as well as attack speed, which basically affects the DPS of your basic attacks, like how quickly can you basic attack. And the abilities of fighters and marksmen have usually a lot to do with modding your basic attacks. So usually when you hit an ability, then it has an effect like the next basic attack deals this and this damage and paralyzes them, for example. And while mages have like your typical like these casting abilities where they shoot like these beams or like spherical stuff, and assassins, they can create like copies of themselves to like confuse the enemy, or can quickly like do like a gap closer, like quickly engaging and disengaging. And support ultimates can be like when you fight against a team that has a good support, like support ultimates can be annoying. There's one who can, no matter where she stands, he can heal the entire team for a portion, like at the same time, like immediately. It's like a global ultimate. And there another one can like strike like a beam of lightning coming from the skies, just stunning anyone that is at the center of it. And in terms of mechanics, it is quite as sandboxy as Destiny is with mechanics. like there's like I haven't seen like a limit in the creativity, and I think that's the appeal of playing League of Legends.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, so like really
yeah.
quick to jump in there, like I think that's probably a good part to segue into the advanced session, because I think one of the things you mentioned, right, is like knowing the game mechanics is a great way to then really appreciate the story. I want to say story mechanics because that makes total sense in my head, but that's not the right way of saying that. But the narrative, right?
The narrative design.
Yeah, so let's do a quick round of intro shout outs, and then for the stream here we'll take a quick break and then jump into the advanced session. For those listening to the podcast, you got to wait a couple of days. Sorry you weren't at the live stream. But so for the intro session, do you have any shout outs for us for just real quick?
Actually, let me have a little look. There she is. I want to shout out a developer at Riot Games. She is a senior game designer at Riot Games. I'm pretty sure she is working like in League. It's like I think a few things shifted since Valorant came out. But yeah, shout out to Katie Caronis. I think that's how you pronounce that name, like K Caronis. If I may put that in the Twitch chat. Why is my there we go. So I know links will get executed by Nightbot, so I'm just gonna
put it in our chat for Focus Fire chat, and I'll put it in there for you.
Oh yeah, there we go. Where there we go. Because Katie is also a Destiny player.
Nice.
She had a very funny tweet the other day where she said something along the lines of that Destiny weapon names and anime song titles have the same energy. And it's funny because it's so true. It is. I'm gonna like at the beginning of the advanced session, I'm gonna like there are actually quite some bridges between Destiny and League of Legends you might not be aware of, which I'm gonna
that's cool.
Start with for the storytelling aspect. But yeah, that's where my shout out goes.
Cool. Green, what about you?
Nice. My shout out goes to you, Blue, and Orchid for coming up with the most brilliant accidental try to annoy Green that Green then turns to annoy everybody, because if I have to suffer, all of you have to
You're
suffer.
all insufferable.
You're all insufferable. So it's shout outs to you two. And shout outs for Vuru for putting in so much into this episode, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about it. You did a ton of work, and I know that was kind of a it's been rough lately, and I appreciate you more than you know for wanting to hop on and help us out with it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Blue?
Just really a shout out to Green and Orchid for putting up with the idea. Like I remember when Green first said the throwaway comment for this stupid song, I was like, oh, it's like this. And then Orchid messaged me. She's like, you need to do it. You need to do it this way, and I'll write the lyrics for you. So then it was like, it snowballed quickly.
It did.
But no, really, really big thanks for those two putting up with the randomness that is our brains at sometimes. But Oh my gosh. Watching watching the comments has made my day. But as always, I want to thank you for your time, and until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer. Stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. All right, and I'm gonna take a break real quick to go grab some more water, and
Yes.
then we'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a cup of tea.
All right,
That's
cool.
probably a good idea. Probably good, probably good. Oi. Oh, goodness. I love looking at the stuff going on right now. Much needed laughter. Much, much needed laughter. Oh, goodness. Ah. Man, oh man.
Oh, all right. Thanks, guys. Uh, yeah, I think Funimation has an app for Xbox for a while now, if I remember correctly.
I am back as well.
Yay!
Ay la la. Funimation app for Xbox. Okay, so what's this anime that he's watching? Black something?
Black Lagoon. I need to watch it. I'm waiting for him to finish watching it so I don't interrupt his watching of it. But I gave him a laundry list of others to watch. I went through all the Funimation options and I was like, here's all the Funimation ones. Let me know when you're done and I'll give you all the ones on Netflix that are also worth watching.
Oh no. I have not watched Black Lagoon Trigger, mainly because I have not watched many animes at all. The only anime I have ever seen is I would watch some of it wasn't Naruto. No, it was Naruto. I would watch it with a friend of mine in college once a week, and then Sailor Moon, if you count that. Dragon Ball Z.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the basic ones. None of the ones that you really have to be on any of the subscription services to watch. I might not be ready for that one. Why is that trigger?
Oh yeah, Black Lagoon's pretty dark. It gets into really dark stuff. But actually, I forgot.
Black Lagoon a new thing?
No, it's an older one. I forgot that Funimation also made Wolf's Rain, which was an amazing anime. I love that anime.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Naruto and Sailor Moon, those were times.
Mm-hmm. Blue just finished a cross stitch for his wife of Sailor Jupiter.
Mars. Full Metal Panic. I also, Trigger, you'll appreciate this. I told Pins that he has to watch FLCL. Waiting for the delay on that.
FLCL? What's that?
It's an amazing anime.
The way you said that leads me to believe that that is not the case.
That's the response I was expecting.
Context clues. They are important.
Pins.
I think I recognize the name FLCL, but
it's oh god, I can't even remember what it's at. Like it's oh Jesus, it's something. I can't. FLCL. It's basically it's like a psychedelic Rick and Morty before Rick and Morty was ever a thing. Like
I think
like,
I remember.
It's like there's an entire scene where one of the characters has an Athena moment.
Coolly.
Yes. But like a robot, like a Gundam robot jumps out of his head and they have to fight with guitars. Like it's just hilarious.
Of course, yeah.
It sounds like Jack Black's video game.
Yes. Oh god.
Brutal Legends.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like it's actually really decently done, in all honesty.
Oh goodness. I think I could recognize some anime names, like Fruit Basket I recognize, but never watched.
Yeah. That's not my genre. I don't.
I think my top anime is Attack on Titan, One Piece, and Detective Conan.
Oh yeah.
What was the last one?
Detective Conan.
Oh, I don't know that one.
I think in America it's been renamed as Case Closed. Like official title is Case Closed. Because that is something that. So, for those who don't know in stream, I live in Switzerland and in the German-speaking part of Switzerland. And obviously, my first anime experience was all in dubbed, like German dubbed. And at some point, they stopped doing Detective Conan episodes. And then when I did some research into it, it made sense why. Because they started doing it's a crime series, and they like to do these like riddles, and especially they like to go into like the linguistic aspects of riddles. And I think that's where they hit a block in like translating it properly. Because they used Western based languages as riddles, and it's kind of difficult to translate that and then sell it as a riddle.
Sure.
And I think that's why it stopped. Yeah, exactly. Here,
the case closed. I remember this.
Yeah. So yeah, now I'm just, like reading the manga.
Okay.
And well, the Japanese, with the Japanese, like the original anime with English sub, and so some like this is like something really interesting about the anime industry when they get like recurring musicians for their openings. Like Detective Conan is one of those. And yeah, there's some cool openings. I remember singing along back when it was dubbed in German.
Nice.
Yeah, One Piece is another like a marvel of world building that I can definitely recommend, that I'm just as fascinated as by Destiny. And it's humor, like in One Piece. For those who don't know, it's like a pirate series, but like with goofy humor. There is like they're like in a there are like oceans that have like vast different climates and like different atmosphere because of the magnetic forces there that are like running wild, and which leads to like islands where dinosaurs are still a thing.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And giants and and one aspect where like the goofy humor works so well. There's an island called Long Ring Longland. And in that island, everything is long, like the plants and the animals as well. So there's like a dog that is very long, and because of that, it's not called a dog; it's called a dog.
Oh god.
When I saw that the first time, it was an episode like I couldn't breathe. Like with the voice actors, they sold it like so seriously in that tone. Like it's not a dog, it's a dog.
I just don't have any I really don't have much of a structure for anime in my history. Just really don't.
It's okay. I can send you advised ones.
I know you sent me a whole
list. That's just Funimation, like, and that's only Funimation that they have uploaded available for streaming, which was actually really frustrating because there's a couple that I know Funimation made, but they don't have it on their site, and I'm like, those are the good ones.
Green, do you like volleyball?
I have played it in my history, like in my past. I've played the game. Wouldn't say I like it because I'm 5'2".
Okay, that's actually perfect. I'm gonna recommend you an anime called Haikyuu.
Okay.
It's about volleyball, and the main protagonist is a boy who's he's too small.
Yeah.
He's very small, and so he tries to like bypass that. He's very, very quick, and he has quite the jump.
Nice.
And it's like I was never like a fan of the earlier sports anime, but Haikyuu clicked really well with me. And it's like it has like interesting expositions on how volleyball tournaments work, how the rules work, and the tactical aspect of things, but also, and most importantly, the player dynamics within the team. And especially, it's a school team, so it's especially interesting with the elder students who are about to leave. And so like kind of compete with their position with the youngsters.
Sure.
For tournaments, especially if it's their last tournament. And and it has it also goofy humor.
I would imagine, especially, I mean, I don't know. Animes can be either like really, really innocent, or they can be innocently playing while they're not innocent at all.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
I remember watching
Oh my god,
Dragon Ball.
Hunter.
That one too. So like
the Slayers.
Oh god. I showed Julie the first episode of Dragon Ball thinking, oh, this is fine.
No. Oh no.
I forgot all about Master Roshi. And poor Bulma.
Oh
poor
yeah,
Julie.
that.
Poor
oh my
Julie.
god, I
talking about poor Bulma.
I repressed that part of the story. I forgot what a freaking cry. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And the first, like, I guess it may not have been the first episode. It may have been like the first 3 episodes. And she was like, I don't know if I want to watch this anymore. If it's going to be like this, it's like, it's okay. It gets better, but it really doesn't. You just block it out.
I mean, I would say it does get better once it's like in the next generation, like well, not like the sequel, Dragon Ball Z, and
yeah.
Basically, as soon as Roshi gets on the screen, just kind of fast forward until he's not there anymore.
You can always just watch Team 4-Star.
Oh,
yeah.
Nappa!
I was like, when I was thinking back at all these battle animes like Dragon Ball, I didn't want to revisit that. But surprisingly, the newest sequel that came out, I think like last year, Dragon Ball Super, it's actually quite good. Like
I lost track of it after.
So G2 was not official. I did not know that, and now it also makes like in the German dubbed in Switzerland, like there were like entire arcs missing, like for the official release, and I like what the heck just happened, and I learned it's not even official, but yeah, Super is actually the official sequel to Dragon Ball Z, and introduces the multiverse aspect. Really interesting. But yeah, I think Green, you might like maybe you might be like more into like slice of life animes.
Maybe. The thing is I actually am not a huge TV person in general.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, like sometimes it'll catch me, sometimes it won't. It just really depends.
Yeah. But yeah,
So
when I
advanced
watched
session?
Hunter the
Yee.
first time, Jesus Christ.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
advanced session. Wait, where's the... Oh, there's the channel. There we go.
Oh man. All right, let's get. Whoa! I must have.
Whoa.
Oh no, I'm catching up in chat.
Oh, I gotcha.
Hunter x Hunter. Oh god. Okay. Okay. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on July 3rd, 2020, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat as we continue our discussion over League of Legends. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the advanced session of the week's exploration. Congratulations to those who have signed up for a deeper dive. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the totally not getting ready to tweet a picture out on Blue on
That is
Twitter.
so
Green
rude.
Eye Music Lover.
Rude.
It's
Man.
gonna be awesome.
Yeah, whatever. And last but definitely not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend Dancy Vuru. Vuru, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm still reminiscing, the innocence I had until I watched certain animes. It just all came back to me.
I don't understand. I don't get it. It's not like Master Roshi was. Oh wait.
Well, no, it's mainly Hunter x Hunter. When you think it's about a sweet little boy, who wants to go on an adventure, become a hunter, hunt, as the opening sequence suggested, wants to hunt down, treasures and looking for his father, until he encounters another hunter who's much definitely looks older than him, but seems to be power sexual and really into him, and gets it up every time the little kid shows something powerful, or when the kid loses an arm. That is, yeah, it is.
It was a very interesting show. Let's just leave it at that.
It was a rite of passage for sure.
It's everyone has to have their crucible.
Yeah,
but to kind of jump back into the League of Legends aspect. So we talked about the game mechanics in a lot of depth with the first part. So how do we see that transition into the narrative, or the as we call it, the lore of the League of Legends game world? How does that cross over? How would you say that?
Yep. So League of Legends, if you compare to other games, it's not your traditional game that has campaigns. It is more it uses more of the typical to some other PvP games, like these, what we call in Destiny, lore tabs. So we talked about in the intro section where the player summons a champion. There's a pool of champions they can choose from, and in the end it's a 5 versus 5, 5 champions versus 5 other champions. And if you want to know more about them, when you play the game, you have a client, and that client is called, actually I don't know why it's called pvp.net. That's the client. I can't remember if there's any specifics to that, but yeah, that's the client that you that you need to have open. It's where your friends list is, and your where you can go buy some cosmetic skins and stuff through microtransactions, and that's where you also see your collections of champions you possess. And disregarding if you like actually own the champions or not, you can still like look up their lore tab. Now, there used to be, I guess, hinted at the intro, there was like a reboot, and as far as I can tell, there's like multiple ones, like minor and major ones, and every time I came back to League of Legends, I also saw how the lore tabs like shifted and changed in like depth, as well as how much there was to read. Now they're all like very short because they're all like reference to a sub page of League of Legends, which Riot finally has like curated, like its universe and the world building, the sub page, and that's how where we mainly going to talk about in reference to the lore, like for the listeners. Website universe.leagueoflegends.com, and we're gonna mainly reference that. But as for the game itself, where you can like see the storytelling aspect of things, there are sometimes like events you have in the game, like based on missions, and it's usually tied with the official releases of new champions. Because then you obviously have a new lore tab to like deal with, and very often when a champion's released, there's like usually like immediate connections to other champions, and based on these lore tabs, it can sometimes be like a continuity of what you've read from another champion, and so you have like an idea, like with the release of this champion, like as a playable champion, something happened in the universe, and to like commemorate that, there's usually like events like around that release, with like specific missions, where you have missions like play a game of League of Legends with champions from, and then insert a specific location from Runeterra, and then it's also listed like with which champions, and then you get like bonuses like in-game currencies you can use to buy champions and or buy skins. And then we have, based on what champions your teammate's gonna choose, sometimes there are some voice line interactions in game.
Okay.
There is an occasion where, for example, two champions got released at the same time, and the reason why is these two were a couple, like inseparable couple, and they have some minor like gameplay mechanics, like bonus mechanics when those two are played together. Conveniently, one of them is a bot lane like marksman, and the other one is a support. So those two could be played together. And yeah, if those two play together, there are like some additional bonuses to their mechanics when they're like close to each other, like increased range and things like that, as well as like these randomized voice lines, like that they flirt with each other and things like that, and which they started to incorporate like more and more with the newer champs when there is some sort of a relationship with another existing champion. There are also some like in-game text feed cues when you have a champion that is known in the lore to be looking out for another champion to hunt down. Like two of those champions, like there's a champion called Rengar who wants to hunt down a champion called Kha'Zix, and when in your team there's a Rengar and in the enemy team is a Kha'Zix, and when they see each other, the in-game text feed says the hunt is on, for example.
Nice.
To pay like an homage to what happened in the lore and things like that. Then outside of that, on the sub page we have comics, short stories, and more importantly, that is like maybe more dominant, like especially for people who are not conversant with League of Legends, but can see it from the outside. Cinematic trailers. Now, I mentioned in the intro section, there's like some interesting connection to Destiny. So, if I'm not mistaken, there might be like multiple studios involved, but from what I can tell, one major studio that does these cinematic cutscenes is Axis Animations or Axis Studios. They also did they did a few cutscenes in Destiny 2, and it's the ones where, depending on the content, the camera zooms into the logo of the content, and then shows the enemy side. The Gaul scenes, with the Red War campaign, where it like pans into the the Red Legion logo, and the same in Forsaken, where it pans into all the Aldrin scenes. These were done by Axis Studios as well. As well as some others. And yeah, it's usually these cinematic trailers, they like kind of show like some moments that people who are who know the lore like know what this is referencing, but it's usually in a way that it introduces new champions. I think Riot usually pairs it with like all these major releases. Usually happens during a cup, during a tournament. And yeah, it is like someone said in the chat, and you mentioned it earlier as well. Like it is like this is an aspect that Overwatch does as well, with this cinematic, like these cutscenes. And
I love those things.
Yeah, these are quite awesome, very interesting. If we want to look now at other storytelling mediums, last year there was the 10-year anniversary from Riot Games, where they opened up their portfolio to announce a couple of other things. One of those things was, which is now officially released, the shooter Valorant, but it has nothing to do with League of Legends, even though the name might suggest that. But there are some other spin-offs that are that have now official releases. One of them is a card game called Legends of Runeterra. For those who want to get into the world building and universe of League of Legends, or like in general, the visual themes, and like just to engage with the world of League of Legends, and are familiar with Magic the Gathering, I highly recommend playing Legends of Runeterra. It is now out of beta. It is free to play. In terms of mechanics, it is like Magic the Gathering, but with the pacing mechanics of Hearthstone.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it has. You have your automated mana crystal generation. Each turn, you get one mana crystal automatically. Like you don't have specific cards for that to play. You have your creatures. These can be creatures that are that are part of the worlds of Runeterra that otherwise you didn't get to experience in League of Legends, outside of some 3D model accessories in the map that sometimes just like in the background roaming around, and are now official creatures in Legends of Runeterra. And then you have the champions, obviously. These champions, they have a level up mechanic, which is affected by the lore based on the historical development. These champion cards, they have an effect as a requirement, and if you manage to get that effect done, that champion card's gonna level up to like a stronger version with more powerful abilities. Something interesting about this card game, obviously it's the same as the other two. You have to bring down the life points of the enemy player 1v1. What is interesting here is it is turn-based, but you also take turns in getting the attack phase. So you only get to attack each second turn. So like you two like switch up in like attacking. Like in turn 1, you can attack, and then in turn 2, the enemy player cannot attack, but he can play his creatures and whatever. Then turn 3, in your turn, you do not get to attack this time, but then in turn 4, the enemy player gets to attack, and then in turn 5, when it's your turn again, you attack again. So the turn-based like mechanic here is the attack phase switches up back and forth, and it's visualized by like it's called like a attack coin that gets passed to you, and then it moves to the enemy player next turn, and then like back and forth. That's like a interesting difference, where you only get to attack every second turn. And all these cards have lore artworks that you can right click on. They're all beautiful, and they all have like a flavored text and like contribute to the world building. And yeah, Riot Games announced a project with the in-house publishing team called Riot Forge. They announced like a couple of spin-off series. One of them is it is from another studio. I forgot which one it's called. They don't have a name for it yet, I believe, but it is going to be a story game based on the concept art they've shown. It looks like it's gonna be like a Metroidvania kind of game, or at least like a side-scrolling platformer game with one of the champions as the main protagonist. And yeah, it's like a story-driven game where we get to see the story of that one champion. They have like other games, like unspecified projects they've announced with the Riot Forge and like external studios to get some other story games done. They also have planned a Tekken, like a League of Legends Tekken, like a fighting game. We're just going. I think I can't remember. It's either still this year or next year. So I don't know how much of storytelling there's gonna be, because like if I think Tekken, like if I think fighting game, like Tekken has now like a story mode.
Yeah.
We have like story based fighting, so maybe there's gonna be something that they can do there. It's gonna be quite interesting. More importantly, they teased something what seems to be a MMO.
That would be interesting.
an action RPG MMO. They showed like just a screenshot. It was like rumored like for a long time. And something interesting here for Destiny fans, like I don't know if you've noticed the former lead for the Destiny's raid team, like he left sometimes after Forsaken and joined Riot Games. I think it's a Joey Blackburn something.
That was one of them, yeah.
I think the username is Joe Goroth or something. And no, not Joe Goroth. It's someone else. It is like a former like a raid team lead. He is. I think he's in the. It says he's in the R&D department. For Riot Games, and I have a heavy suspicion he might be involved in that MMO project. And yeah, obviously if when the MMO comes out, it's gonna be like major. That's definitely gonna be like a major storytelling game, like especially like in world building. And I teased at. We will get back to that at the end, but I teased at the idea that League of Legends has a multiverse now. Why that's a thing now is because not only champions have lore tabs in the client, their skins have now as well. So if you buy like skins that's like especially like something completely different, then yeah, there's like something entirely different lore that has nothing to do with Runeterra. And for now, there seem to be like just like puzzle pieces because we don't have the same depth for Runeterra that like these other universes have, but they're like hinted at they already have like some like sub tabs on that sub page. Like for Star Guardians, Odyssey, and KDA. I haven't looked into the KDA yet. I still need to wrap my head around that. Like,
well, because that was an alternate skin to the already existing champions, right?
Yeah. Like these skins are all like, yeah, these are all like, like ornaments to weapons in Destiny.
Right.
Some like a unique experience in League of Legends that I haven't really seen like that intensely in other games is you have like these different like tiers of skins. Obviously, these tiers are like represented by like the amount of money they cost. The more expensive they are, the more they actually do stuff that like changes like in game. For example, let's see like a champion that does like dark magic, uses dark magic, like it's a dark purple colors used to visualize that in game, like with the visual effects. Put like a choose like a different skin where she's suddenly like there are these like oceanic skins, like the deep something, like referencing water, like the ocean. And then that champion is no longer shooting with dark magic, but actually with water. But it is the same effect. It's the same visual effects, just the color and style has been changed. So it really looks like it's the champion is no longer like having like dark magic abilities, but instead like water abilities, which is really cool. And yeah, like for the first time, I think it started like 2 years ago. Like skins are actually having lore now, hinting at at the multiverse, like at alternate realities and things like that. Yeah, so obviously there are comics and short stories. The short stories, these are like very specific chapters of each of these champions' lives, like something specific that happened. But as you mentioned with the reboot, there seem to have been like a lot of changes, and the major difference between the first time I looked into the lore and the last time I looked, like when I knew that the universe subpage was a thing, and when I started to look into like properly, like at the beginning of this month and like for this episode, realized like there have been a lot of changes for one, and secondly, it is quite a lot, like very complex. That's why what I'm gonna do, like when we go through Runeterra, I'm gonna like heavily summarize, and also simultaneously for you to also to give the opportunity to simultaneously like look at these sub pages like on a second monitor or something as I reference to things to see the uniqueness of League of Legends is they are using obviously like tropes that you've seen in other
because I know
things.
like some of the geography areas, like especially some of the I think the newer ones, because I think there's the Icathia, I think is the one that stood out to me. Icathia, yeah. It's a city that's like entirely inspired by Lovecraftian themes, and it's like I was like, what? That is so cool. Whereas then you have like, is it Noxus? Noxus is the Roman Empire one.
Noxus, exactly.
The geography seems like it's really kind of all over the place, but also somewhat like they're talking about an entire planet, so that's not a huge surprise.
Yeah, exactly. So when you look at the map of Runeterra, obviously it's not that visible because it's flat. Cue the beginning of the intro section about flat Earth. But it is a planet. So even if it looks like very small, like when you look at the continents, you have to imagine it is. It's like spherical, and it's probably based on what some of these champion buyers like have written. It's potentially larger than Earth, even with just these continents. And the good thing about this subpage is it has this scattershotness that you might be familiar with the Grimoire cards of Destiny 1, where it doesn't matter where you start, because as you read through, you will encounter something that is intersected with another thing. And not just within these specific locations of Runeterra, it's like all over the place. And something I've realized while reading, there's some stuff that I've read like years ago, like a couple years ago, like first time when I played the game, that is no longer there in like in the same phrasing, because what Riot Games also started doing with the subpage, which I really appreciate, is like proper copy editing as the universe like moves forward. Like certain events, they're no longer selling it as something that just like immediately happened. They do like reiterate on these lore tabs as the story progresses. And yes, something really interesting about League of Legends especially with the visual themes, when I mentioned earlier with like similar tropes from other things, you would think like someone who's hearing about League of Legends the first time and looked at all these visuals, that this multiverse concept is all within the same planet. But no, that's not even the multiverse aspect of things. These are actually like all these different cultures. They also have like different level of technology. Like as you mentioned, like Noxus is inspired by this by the notion of Roman Empire, like Roman structures. But like in terms of technology, is a bit different. You have your typical medieval kingdom. You have your, I like to call it the dreaming city of League of Legends in the east. And yeah, the you have your typical like the pirate theme as well. The archaeological aspect of it as well, and all like cobbled together in like on one planet. Before we go, we're gonna look at the world building and the champions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I want to share something. Like, I want to talk to you guys about an event that happened. That unfortunately, like for some reason, they're not doing things like that anymore. But it's something.
Was it like a live event like the Destiny community witnessed with the Warsat, or?
Yeah,
Sort of.
It goes into that direction. If you want to talk about how changes to skyboxes work in tandem with the moving narrative, then yes, that's what I mean. And since I've experienced that event, I'm under the strong impression that not everything have to be just like resulted in that's just gameplay mechanics. And I genuinely think like really anything could be explained with given time and resources. So for this example I'm gonna talk about, it might be helpful to have like on the subpage under the regions to have the one for Bilgewater open.
Okay.
Because that's the best way to have all the major champions visible at the same time instead of like clicking back and forth. So at some point in League of Legends, I think it was actually during the year where my friends and I actually played the first time and then experienced this event. And it was about Bilgewater, which is like it's a port city where everyone, like anyone can go there and live there, and there's like no law. It doesn't matter if you've branded a criminal from whichever region you came from, like in Runeterra. And in Bilgewater, it doesn't matter, and that's why it's also like the main location for pirates. And usually, when you look at League of Legends in terms of gameplay, there are some modes that don't make sense in terms of story. It's just like a gimmicky features. There's like a mode called Ultra Rapid Fire, or short URF, which is basically the same like League of Legends like game mode, the Summoner's Rift, but with heavily reduced cooldown reduction, like heavy cooldown reduction and amplified mana regeneration. It's the what's it called, Blue? And you like to reference that in Halo. Is it Mayhem?
Oh, yeah, Super Fiesta.
So, yeah, it's kind of like the Super Fiesta of League of Legends. And if you look at modes like that, there is like no there's like no story aspect to that, like why that happens. But there was like a excuse me. Okay, there we go. There was an event, and before that event happened, Riot Games told the community like this is something they always do, and one of the champions, the C4 Bilgewater Gangplank, and he's a notorious pirate. He used to look differently. He also used to have different abilities, and he was kind of like meh in terms of gameplay, and didn't really fit well. Like with his gameplay, it lacked a little bit of identity. It seemed like generic, and also the amount of time he was picked to play was also a bit strange. So they some point they announced that Gangplank's going to get a rework, and then for a time they never talked about it again. and then
we said the thing and then just slid it under the rug, because, you know.
Then this event happened, and the way this event happened is it was a Bilgewater themed event, and I believe usually when these events happen, there are usually obviously like the sales on certain skins that are themed around what happened in a narrative. So anything Bilgewater related skins have like they have a discount on and things like that, as well as the missions I mentioned. What was happening this time though was so I can't remember if it was each day or like each second or third day. It might as well been like each week rather. I feel like it was shorter, but every other day at least, a chapter was released. And it was like around the champions Gangplank, Graves, Misfortune, and Twisted Fates. Oh yeah, one thing you should like, some of these champions' names, they're quite puns. They like doing that, like Misfortune. So it was revolved around these 4 characters. And each, like every couple of days, like a chapter got released, and something was going on in the lore. And to briefly like explain what happened there, the character Misfortune, she's a marksman. She has like her like dual hand cannons, and with her lore, she I'm like basically like remembering from back then. There might have been like some new stuff right now, but back then she was it was said that her parents died by someone, and it was like barely explained by whom. And the law between like Graves and Twisted Fate, they had a shared history. They used to be like partners in crime, and then according to Graves, Twisted Fate abandoned him, and since then they've been like Graves been like trying to hunt him down, while Twisted Fate, he's just like a bit laid back. It seems like he just didn't want to, he's like more like someone who embraces freedom. And if I remember correctly, he maybe like underestimated the friendship Graves felt towards him, and that's why he's maybe shocked by his reaction. Either way, something happened where Graves thinks he betrayed him, but it was during the chapter that was revealed that was not the case, and Graves was just like too stubborn to to see that. And during the event, when with the chapters, Gangplank, Graves, Misfortune, and Twisted Fate, each of the chapters, it was you could tell that all of them are in Bilgewater, all in like different like houses and taverns and doing their own thing. For Twisted Fate, he used to just shortly explain his splash art here. In game, he throws like magically charged cards. He's a mage. His projectiles are cards, and that's also the play of his name, Twisted Fate. Like there's a play on tarot cards, probably. And during the chapter for Twisted Fate, like some little boy approached him and said, "There's like." He was apparently looking for a specific treasure that was on the ship of Gangplank. And he said, like during these times, Gangplank usually in a bar, like drinking with his crew, and then it's said that Twisted Fate went there. And that boy also came to Graves during Graves' chapter and said, the one he's been hunting for, Twisted Fate, he's going to be on that pirate ship on that in that time. And so he was ready, and like finally he found his old friend he wanted to hunt down, and so he went there. The two of them also seemed to be like a target for Gangplank. So the boy also went to Gangplank and like told them, "Hey, these two people, they're on your ship right now." And he was very angry. And what is interesting about this, up until then in the lore, it was Gangplank is very evil, like very like a really like a true bad guy, like really doesn't care about the laws. And during that chapter, he actually rewarded the boy beforehand, like told his crew, give him a warm meal, and when he turns out to be right, also give him gold. Otherwise, just let him go. And so he went to his ship, and then the next chapter, like Graves approached Twisted Fate on the ship after Twisted Fate realized there was no the artifact the boy was talking about was not there. And then he saw Graves and then, oh crap. And then the both of them fought on the ship. And then Gangplank came, and he saw both of them and attacked both of them with his crew. And that was also an interesting moment between Graves and Twisted Fate, where they finally they were able to talk about their past and like talk it out what actually happened. And Graves was able to chill down a bit and like realized that he was like just like very stubborn about this whole thing, and very had a tunnel vision about this whole thing, and especially after seeing how quickly Twisted Fate reacted when people started shooting at Graves, and he tried to save him, and so the two of them they eventually were able to escape, but not without an explosion that happened on the ship, which was set up by Misfortune. And in her chapter, it was revealed she sent the boy to set all these characters up on the ship, to have like a major like a fight out, because she knew about the relationship between all of these. And during that chapter, it was also revealed Gangplank was the father. Sorry, Gangplank was the one who killed her parents, and the chapter ended with Gangplank seemingly dying. For the next couple of days, Gangplank was not playable in game.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I like that. It actually puts weight to what happened.
Yeah. And then after a couple of days, the last chapter came, and that was from Gangplank. He managed to reach out to a underworld doctor who is skilled at implants and things like that, because he lost his arm from the explosion. And yeah, he gave him like a new like a mechanical arm and things like that. And that's how Gangplank returned to the game with his announced rework. And that was then the end of the event. And they had some other events after this, but nothing like in a scale where it actually affected the gameplay this deeply. We had some other reworks with champions, but they never resulted like in events like this, where it was like step by step, like explained. And like nowadays, these reworks nowadays happen like in tandem with rewriting a lot of these champions' lore and matching the new narrative, that they at least seem to be consistent, like from like since they started this whole subpage thing. But yeah, I found this like really incredible, like to tie the story into a rework, like of a character that was needed for the gameplay, for the meta. And yeah, this is like another way they explained the story. And yeah,
so I like to start and wrap that up. I like the idea that you presented there with like the combination of the game mechanics and the narrative actually syncing up like that. That's really, really cool. It's like a really interesting way to take a character that, maybe this might be the other thing, is like you could take a character that's not really the fan favorite, or there's something that needs to be done with them, and use the narrative to explain, okay, we're going to take him offline or her offline for a week or so while we rework them, but then have that disappearance explained in the narrative. I think that's really cool. Like I think that's it really shows smart, yeah. Right. Well, it also shows the dedication that the team has to actually making sure that everything kind of like that immersion is not broken. I think that's really kind of a cool idea. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it also like it worked really well because they decided to never talk about the rework again.
Oh yeah, that's really funny too, because
it was kind of obvious they planted this like they wanted us to like subvert our expectations, and obviously we knew the rework's gonna happen, but when the chapter came on, I know, oh wow, like how awesome is that? It was really cool. Yeah. So nowadays every time champion gets released, they have the opportunity to update lore tabs, as well as now officially release short stories on the subpage and comics. And as they go on, the bio of these characters they get updated. And it is, as you guys said, there's no main character. All these champions are characters, and they all move like the story as the story moves them, so to speak.
My question for you would be kind of a final teaser to get people to go kind of look up things on their own. Is, do you have a favorite character story out of all of them? Because you said there's over 140 of them. There's a lot of stories to choose from. Is there one story in particular that's your favorite?
This is really, there are a lot of things. Something that I realized is my favorite champion I play with in game aren't necessarily my favorite characters.
Okay.
And when we want to talk about favorite character, that not necessarily favorite, but just the one that I am impressed by the most right now.
Okay.
If we go under the regions to the Bandle City, Bandle City is a really a fabled mythical place in Runeterra. You also don't see it when you look at the map. You don't see it immediately until you zoom into Valoran, the northern continent, and then you see some yellow sparkly glitter as you zoom into. Bandle City is it's in the spirit world. It has its own reality, the city, and it is the people who live there are the Yordles, which you see under the Bandle City, under the champions. They they're all very tiny.
I love them.
They're so all cute. And
that's all you had to say.
And the ones who look really serious, they would really appreciate it if you also take them seriously. These Yordles, what they all have in common is they're all about creativity and about mischief, but it's all in a playful way. They've been in Runeterra since pretty much since the beginning, and they have secret pathways from Bandle City that is goes throughout the fabrication of the material world of Runeterra, and they can they can look at everything without being seen with their magic. They have very special magic. It's your typical Fey magic,
they're very puckish.
Very fairy that you might see from other fantasy. Some of these Yordles, because of their creativity, they go to a city. Lots of them went to the city of Piltover, which has a technological boom, and it gets to the point where you don't even see these aren't all Yordles. These are just the ones that are emotionally affiliated with Bandle City, but some Yordles are now affiliated with other cities in Runeterra, and to convert their creativity into into their imagination with the tinkering technology, and like Corky, he's part of a squadron. And
Gnar is the one that I like. He's so adorable.
Oh yeah, Gnar is.
He's cute, but he looks like a gremlin.
Yeah, he's also really scary when he gets upset.
Yes. So
he's wearing a bone hat.
Look at his hand.
is in the northern side, like in the far cold north in Freljord. And he has like 2 goals in his life. Okay.
To kill, I'm assuming, is one of them.
No, number one is collect cool looking things.
Okay, he's a thief. Got it.
Number 2 is to throw them.
Wait, what?
He likes throwing things.
He has a jawbone from a creature he picked up as a boomerang, and that's his gameplay mechanic in game. That's his basic attack, throwing that boomerang, and he's always excited when it comes back. And
it's like a corgi that has a thing that he can throw and it comes back.
Yeah, and he was caught up in a cataclysmic event in Freljord. Because he didn't have any other yordles, he looked at the Yetis and thought, yeah, these are just large yordles. I'm gonna befriend them. So he wanted to befriend. Firstly, he's like very shy. He wants to like look at them from a distance, But the thing is, in the north, it's like all like barbaric tribes that are fighting each other because it's like very harsh life in the north, and these Yetis, they all got doing all this feud, especially with the trolls that also live there. They got killed, and he considered them, friends, kind of. And during one of these events, like a rift opened into the void, which is something that I'm gonna briefly explain, to end this whole thing with how Runeterra came to be. Like a rift to the void opened. By the way, I give you one. I mean, you probably already saw it. One guess which color is dominant with to the void.
I mean, is it the same as Destiny and Violet?
Yeah. And like a creature of the void emerged and killed, the most of the Yetis and large yordles, and he got so angry, and he compared this feeling, like he tried to imagine what it would feel like if his boomerang never came back. And he got so angry, and it's still like a bit like unclear. Maybe it's yordle magic, but he was so angry. He jumped at that void creature. It was another champion, like a playable champion, Vel'Koz. It's just an eye with tentacles.
Oh, it's like a beholder.
Yeah.
Yeah. He laughed at it, and he thought he had a snowball in his hand, throwing it at Vel'Koz. What it really was a large boulder, because he didn't realize he turned into a monster, like enlarged himself.
Mm-hmm.
But before anything could happen, another champion who prepared for the arrival of this void creature just froze everything to like seal off this void creature. And since then, it's like in the Howling Abyss, which is also the map of another mode where it's also 5v5, but in like just one lane, like below in the abyss, frozen in ice, and you can still you can walk on the ice and see the eye under it, the large eye.
Oh, that's creepy.
And he got frozen as well, and like everything was like in stasis, so to speak, for centuries, until I started melting, and this probably also has partly to do with Gnar's yodel magic. His eyes began to thaw, and then he woke up, and then thank God my boomerang is here, and he's like,
first things
okay,
first.
Yeah.
First things first. Where's my boomerang?
He looked around like, what happened? And then he was like, everything's changed, and that was so exciting for Gnar to like so much new things to explore now. And yeah, that's basically the story. But like my favorite champion rider based on law is Poppy. She's affiliated with Demacia. Poppy is a very interesting yodel compared to all her other compared to the other yodels who like embrace freedom and creativity. She's looking for more, stability, and I'll have Poppy, even with a hammer twice her size, is a very independent yodel. She's very determined. She's also very, very cute. She's the kind of character who would save your life from an unsolvable disaster and then tells you that she's looking for a hero and asks you if you've seen them. When she observed the humans, she was intrigued by one specific settlement that was about to be built, and that was Demacia. This was happening after the Rune Wars, which is an event where everyone was like keen to use magical artifact to empower themselves, and it basically devastated Runeterra, and a lot of refugees came to a place where they found this that looked like fossilized trees that were seemingly like jamming magic, and you have to imagine these refugees, they were like terrified of magic, and so they started building a settlement made of these of the properties of this tree, and built this medieval looking kingdom now, which is all in white, like mixed with that magic jamming material and marble. And it's a very like beautiful and noble country of refugees, and with a very advanced militaristic behavior, like militaristic culture with armies and soldiers. And she like before Demacia was born, she watched like different caravans like passing by, and then she saw one with like soldiers like marching all in like in a synchronized manner, which she was like she was amazed by, and because the way the soldiers build up tents like all like very quickly and efficiently, and went hunting for food, and she only knew that all from like using magic in Bandle City. And so she was very curious. She wanted like it felt like there was this stability in her life she wanted to seek out. So she approached the tent, and with the commander there called Orlon. Orlon was the commander. Just like out of nowhere, just approached these humans, and she had so many questions, and also after looking at Poppy, had so many questions, and eventually these two they became inseparable. And unfortunately, yordles, they have a very long life, so she had to see Orlan die. And in his on a dying bed, he gave her the hammer. It is said that this hammer has apparently like magical properties, and it was destined to be for the supposed hero of Demacia. And only the hero of Demacia can wield its magical power. And that's now her mission. Poppy is looking for the hero of Demacia. She has a ego problem, meaning she has no ego. So she never considered that she might be that hero. And
I think her story is super cute. From what I've just kind of gathered from it, it's just that super tiny kid who is searching for the hero, but kind of discovers their own hero in a lot of ways, possibly.
Yeah,
very sweet.
There's like a similar yordle like Tristana, who in a very shocking event like experienced one of these portals to Bandle City, got devastated, and so she tried to mimic how humans defend their houses and like fortresses, and she got to see that from Piltover, and she was very serious about it, but the way it's written is really cute. Then she started doing the same. She started to march around the borders of Bandle City, all by herself, and all the other what the fuck's she doing there? And she's like very determined, like looking at like in the distance if there's like any enemies, and with her cannon. With her cannon is called Boomer, which is a very interesting name because they like to they have a very simplistic way of naming things that are not familiar to them. And as large yordles, and she understood she need like more people to like safeguard Bandle City, so she has like a typical like military recruits now, and she's training them, and they're like really cute. Yeah.
Nice.
You guys have like something you've seen about Runeterra, or like something about a champion that...
Do you have a favorite champion, Green?
I don't, honestly, because I've never played the game. I've played Smite, which is as close to, like, I understand the concept of what you talked about, especially in the intro session, just as far as lanes and what heroes go where and what their kind of purpose is. That all makes sense to me. The option to have 140 characters to choose from, it kind of hurts me. Overwatch is a lot of characters right now. Like, that is more than I'm willing to even put any time into. But 140, it's like I don't even know where to begin. Like, is there an easy way to pick up the game and find characters that aren't going to take so much time to understand? Is there like a rating system to say that this is a simple character to understand? It has very basic controls, not a high skill level or anything like that.
So any new player who starts the game, there's something about League of Legends. No matter which champions you own, each week there's a new set rotation of 10 champions that are free to play, free to pick. You don't have to like own them.
Okay.
But for brand new players, as far as I know, I think they still do this. They have their own set of 10 champions until you reach a specific account level. And these 10 are basically like the common basic champions as far as mechanics go. The tutorial gives you like Ash, I believe. They did announce that they're gonna reform and rework the tutorialization. Ash, a marksman from Freljord. She has her bows and her passive, like every now and then her abilities and her basic attacks can slow enemies. And she has like her ultimate is a crystal arrow, a large arrow she throws that can like in a linear path like can go through the entire map through walls and stuff until it hits an enemy unit, and everything around the impact gets frozen or like stunned in a mechanic way. And for the mid lane experience, Ari is a good example, like a good all rounder. For mid lane play, she's a mage and assassin. Ari is she's something that's called the Vastayas, half human, half animals. And she's like the fox type. She has 9 tails. And she has her main mechanics is this orb she has. She throws in a linear path, and when it comes back, it deals like additional damage. And she has like abilities where she can jump around, dealing damage, and she can like besmith like enemies, like throwing a heart, and then like ensnare them. They like the enemy champion like walks towards you without being able to attack for a few seconds. And very easy to play. Like it's the go-to assassin / mage experience you can have. And otherwise, I would say I would always start with the support role. If you're by yourself, because support is like more passively, and you have like more time to look at the mini map and gain awareness, because you don't have to focus on last hitting minions because you gain gold in a different way. So yeah, something I forgot to mention, they announced League of Legends for mobile and consoles.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I think at the end of this year they're going to start with mobile with a couple of like regions. They start like Brazilian and Asia. They want to start. They start with the mobiles first to have the mobile data center up, and then they're going to introduce the consoles. And it's not just a port. They took a lot of time to actually change the gameplay mechanics to 2-stick gameplay. Good example that I gave you, like with Ashe and her ultimate, the crystal arrow that shoots like in a linear path. When they showed the trailer, you could see that crystal arrow is no longer linear in the mobile version. Instead, you can control that arrow with your second stick. So it's like completely optimized mechanically for 2-stick gameplay, and therefore like needed some changing. As far as progression goes for like the champions and the skins you purchased, it's gonna be it's like a cross-save situation here. So if you have like a skin for Ashe in the PC version, you're gonna have that skin in the console version as well.
Nice. Blue, do you have any heroes that stand out to you?
No, Alkali is the one that I got. Like she's actually the one, because I saw the KDA thing and it was like all over YouTube for a while, and then I was looking into it and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like I didn't know what it was, and I was like, oh, it's League of Legends, and that's kind of like I'm familiar with like Overwatch does their cinematic shorts for every hero, and I was like, okay, so I started like kind of digging into like the different cinematics of all the heroes, and like the it's just like, I mean, blew me away. I mean, again, just the production value of their cinematics. They also have webcomics now,
Yeah,
which are just crazy. There's I think it's the northern, like one of the northern, or because I think there's a civil war going on in the northern area, and so is it Ash? Is that the archer from?
That's
Okay.
from the tutorial as well. What I mentioned.
Okay,
Ash.
yeah. So she has a web comic, and it's like really like the story is just like the story is actually really strong. Like it just really is.
Yeah.
And so like, and then I was messaging Green because like Akali is it Akali?
Akali.
Akali. Okay. Her origin story is really, really interesting. And I think she's interwoven with another champion that they grew up like in the same clan or something. But then like, I mean, it's just like in every season has a different kind of like primary thing going on. Like the one I think for 2019 was the big the mage girl, which the fight scene with that was just, it blew my mind. It was really cool watching them like take these characters and design them in a movie. It's just I'd be honest, Riot Games could probably put an anime together, and I'd watch it. Like
they actually announced one, I believe.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. They did.
Yeah. An animated series. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I do remember.
Can't remember. I think they hired someone that's actually known. I can't remember who it is. I feel like it's a known studio.
But yeah, I mean, it's so like those are the ones that like immediately come to mind. Ash just has like she had a really interesting and engaging story. And that was kind of the KDA thing was like silly, but it was the rabbit hole that got me started down that. And then like just reading all the different sides and the different music videos that they have for each of the big seasons, they also tell a story, and it's really just really cool seeing all these different stories kind of come together.
Yeah. Ash is also like especially interesting with her in Freljord, because in Freljord you have with all these tribes, but there are like 3 main factions, and from 2 of these 3 factions, the leader, like Ash and Sejuani from the other tribe, they are like descendants of the original 3 sisters who tried to gain like magical powers and then went to the north. And the 3rd one is actually still the same original sister. And that's why I mentioned earlier, like especially the timeline and lore regarding Freljord is a bit conflicting, and like the community believes that's an artificially placed plot hole, because we have a character there like the Ganondorf of League of Legends, who's like in this trifecta. The other 2 are always like a reincarnations, like brand new lives, like descendants of their original season, while the 3rd one is still the same, and she keeps trying to like kill the reincarnations. She did not have that luck like with Ash and Sejuani, and she controls the citadel that has all these historical texts and scrolls stored in, and she basically directs the history of Freljord, and that's why I really think that the plot hole is like very precisely placed. And they're like when you look at the creation of Runeterra and like how it progressed, there's like a pending doom that everyone is waiting for. From the Watchers, who are like trying to open like portal into the world. That's the void rifts. Like all these void creatures are from the Watchers, but the Watchers are too big. That's what they need, a bigger portal, and they like try every time they did like something like cataclysmic happened, shaping Runeterra and its cultures, and that seems to be the end game story. I'm really excited to see like what's gonna happen past that. But like the southern continent of Shurima, there was an empire that got destroyed because of their involvement, and like the freezing of Freljord with Gnar included, who got like caught in all this, was because of a Void Rift, and yeah, they're like all this pending doom, like everyone is preparing the place Ionia, which visually is kind of like the Dreaming City, but narratively it's the Avatar of League of Legends. They're all about harmony, especially one character, like one champion, Karma, and they all have like different interpretations of harmony. And even within them, there are like now feuds and rifts and like infighting over the interpretation of harmony, and like trying to convince others to like draw their like martial arts into like militaristic society and things like that. And they're like everything's on edge, and that's like very like it's like interesting like how these like little events like shape the rest. And
yeah, that's really cool. Well, I appreciate all the hard work that you did, but real quick for you, could you give us a reminder where we can find you on Twitter or whatever other sites you frequent?
Yes, so on Twitter at Dancing Biru, same on Twitch, and I don't have anything up yet on YouTube. Well, not for quite some time, but I am editing some highlights that I like from some games, some Apex Legends I played with a friend of mine, and as well as Magic the Gathering and Teamfight Tactics, which I forgot to mention. It is I don't know if it's called a mode. It is within League of Legends. It's an auto brawler game. Have you seen Dota Auto Chess or like any similar auto chess games?
It sounds familiar.
They all like pretty much like kind of like got the release at the same time, like between months, like last year, like across like like across the gaming market. And it's like very like automated games where you have something like a chessboard. Each turn you have like a selection of characters you can buy like with your gold, and then you put them on the field, and then they fight each other automatically. You can level them up by buying 3 of the same champion, and they turn to level 2. You do the same with 3 level 2s to turn them into level 3. And when you're in a series, you gain like more gold, and it's like a free fall, like with like 8 players, and it's like very interesting. Obviously, like a lot of it is automated and something by chance, but it's like a good way to get in, like to get this League of Legends feel. Especially if you don't want to, have like a coordinated gameplay with the hands, just like selecting and like positioning, and then let the automated battle see the results happening. And it's a game inside of League of Legends. It uses League of Legends as an emulator because it's the same character models, the same visual effects from the abilities, the attacks they use. And Teamfight Tactics is actually the where you can experience best like the multiverse aspect, because each set is based on skins, and outside of that, it's just like automatic gameplay. But yeah, that's something that I tend to stream on Twitch, and you might see some highlights there on YouTube as well. But yeah, basically Dancing Viru basically everywhere.
Perfect. And then do you have any shout outs for the advanced session?
That was my friend that I just mentioned, Kazi Games, Kazie Games, together on Twitch and Twitter. It's been quite. It's very endearing to have someone to play with, and she also got into Destiny 2. She doesn't play as regularly as me, but she also has a Twitch and YouTube channel with her highlights. And just recently, I got her into Magic the Gathering, and she found a deck that she beat me with 3 times in a row.
Nice. What kind of deck is it? Is it
It's this. I think it's based on this Izzet deck, the red blue, where she found
red blue.
she found a loop with which every time she draws a card, I have to mull my library, and I had this master plan in the 3rd game in a row after I lost the previous 2. I thought, okay, maybe I should pick my green-black deck based on Undergrowth, because then I can at least use my graveyard. But still, she managed to not only get my key cards into the graveyard, but also lots of my mana cards, so I couldn't beat her.
Yeah, the problem with blue-red is that if you either get killed quickly or they just start boomeranging stuff
whittling
back at
down.
you.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, is why I love playing blue-red decks. It's either I'm gonna kill you or I'm gonna annoy you to death.
Which is why I play white-black, because I'm a jerk.
I love white-black. That's my favorite.
Right? It's so much fun.
I love punishing players for killing my creatures. It's so awesome.
I'm gonna heal me, hurt you, and heal me too.
Yes. So yeah, that's Cassie Gaines. Also, I want to like a little clap for her. She's an essential worker. She works for the NHS.
Oh wow! Big shout out for that then.
Yeah, she's very awesome, and she's very stressed. And so quite happy that I introduced her to Magic, because that's kind of like stress relieving a bit, especially after beating me 3 times in a row. And she currently has a playthrough on Twitch for The Last of Us 2, because the first one was her all-time favorite so far, especially emotionally. And for those who are interested, check her out on YouTube and Twitch.
Green, what about you?
I don't necessarily have any shout-outs for the secondary one. This week has been ups and downs, and how about this? By the time this comes out, this is going to be old news, but Hamilton is now available on Disney Plus for you to watch. If you have never seen Hamilton or even know what Hamilton is, you must have had a strange childhood. So, you should look it up.
It has been trending on Twitter for over 24 hours now.
Yeah, it's okay. It's like Hamilton is very much
like the fact that it's available.
Right. I meant the whole thing about not knowing what it is. It is very much so an Americanized thing, because it is kind of a little bit of our history turned up with a different twist on it. But as far as it being a very important release currently, the entire musical is done by people of color, which was also written by a person of color. Also very big right now.
I know who you can shout out.
Who can I shout out?
You can shout out Savatun for topping the charts in Spotify with her earworm.
I mean, I don't want to shout out myself. Why would I do that?
Oh my god, it just dawned on me. Earworm. Hi, Savatun Worm. Of course, earworms. It makes sense.
Right?
Okay.
It's also very, very quaint that the editing and the release of the video was done with with assistance of Blue and Orchid, but I released it, I edited it, I may have
you are
charged it with
you are the producer. You are the
Rickroll.
ones who are gonna let those two crunch and like chew them out of the music industry again, and then enjoy the earworm and the tributes you get from the earworms.
I will make Blue a star.
Wink, wink.
Shout out to apparently my new music producer.
Yeah.
Oh man, but no, yeah, just a big shout out to everyone. You know, I know the week has been an interesting one for sure. But we appreciate you guys sticking through, and for those in the live chat, we appreciate you guys staying with us and keeping the chat rolling. It's been really fun reading some of the stuff going on between the episodes. But that being said, I want to thank you for your time, and remember, until next time, with wisdom we conquer. Stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring.
I only realized this just now. You guys changed your outro, right? You used to have a different one. Like,
yeah, it used to be.
It
what
used
was
to be
it? Something like shine bright like a diamond? No.
Oh well, that
that
one's still recorded. I popped those on.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, mine used to be really simple, but then Green got upset.
And then
it's just because
I mean, you should just, speaking of your next week's episode, you should just let Man at Arms do all your intros, and
oh God,
he'd probably be up for that.
Which episode was that? Was it like when he was on last time? That was the episode.
That was in January.
That was like I was, when I miss like a live session of you guys, usually I listen to your episodes when I missed it on live, and when I do my shopping tours. And I was like in the shopping mall, and I hear this intro, and I try to not laugh like in front of all these people. What the hell's happening? I'm like really excited for next week regarding that. Like, not only it's about my favorite topic of the 9, but also Man at Arms.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if I have a metaphor for that, it's like watching the TV show, right? Pitch Blue Dark, and Avatar: The Last Airbender at the same time.
It's the two best things you could possibly think of.
Yeah, in terms of the tones between the two, like the 9 and Man at Arms. That's really exciting.
If you remember the last episode he was on, we did time travel.
No, I remember that the title. It was a physical timey-wimey. Yeah.
It's so funny. It's going to be interesting to not only... Did you see that I tagged him in the whole Destiny is a multiverse thing on Twitter?
Did you see his response?
He was not happy.
He was so upset.
So upset. Oh my gosh, he was mad.
Speaking of Blue, how have you returned to Dark, or are you still like in the Avatar?
So I finished Avatar, and then I got sidetracked by what was it? It was Chrono War. I found a copy of that. Pins let me borrow Funimation, and so I was watching that. But I need to go back to season 2 to finish season 2, because now I'm getting yelled at that I need to watch season 3 by Katie. Because
for Dark?
Yeah, for Dark.
Oh yeah. I just finished immediately when it came out last week.
It's apparently
it's right now my all-time favorite show, mainly because it's finished and.
Is that the last season?
Yeah, it's the last cycle, and
that makes sense because it would be 3. Okay.
Yeah, it is. I love how they did the trailer. Like, I don't know if you want to watch it after season 2, the trailer, because the way they phrased it, like they like for the date of the season 3, they say like things like the final cycle ends, and then the word ends gets switched out with begins, because it's a loop. And it's like really interesting, and I have to say, like, you obviously already like got a glimpse of that in season 1, but especially throughout season 2 and 3, the casting is so on point.
It really is. Like, I was talking to that about I was talking about that to Katie, well, because like I was basically talking to her while I was watching the episodes, and I'm like, I've never wanted to punch something so much as like all the characters in the show, because they're all just like, it's like the more people find out, the more they screw things up. I'm like, stop trying to fix things.
Yes, and that, especially that, is just like, I love how like it is. I love how everything's been like already written out. So like every scene in season 1 and 2 is gonna make sense.
Right. Well,
like
and that's
the more
Katie
you pay attention, the more it's gonna make sense. Yeah.
Right, because Katie was saying like even the intro, the intro piece, like for season 1, she's like, pay attention to it because it changes, and she's like, and it will make sense why that, you know, like normally you skip over the intros. She's like, no, don't skip over the intros. It makes sense. I'm like, oh god,
oh my god,
bless it. Now I have to go back and watch it.
I haven't thought about it. Yes, like season 3 makes the intro of season 1 and 2, and and 3 still sense. Yeah, I haven't even thought about it. Yeah,
because that's what she was. Because it was. I mean, like, because if you watch it, like, if you just watch, because I've only seen season 1. But if you watch like the video of it, it's like I'm getting a headache almost, because it's like, so it's that psychedelic kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then of course she said that, and I was like, of course, because you know this show, it would make sense that would be part of this show. Like it is. Sniper, we're talking about Dark. It is I think it's a Netflix original.
Netflix, yeah. Especially, I think it's the first German Netflix TV show.
Yes, I think that's
the intro soundtrack is also from like a German German music group.
I'll be honest,
well.
I got excited because I saw that they dropped Warrior Nun. Yeah, it is not at all what I remember from the comic book. I was watching it. I'm like, I watched the first episode. I'm like, all right, this is okay. And I started the second episode. I'm like, nope, I'm not watching this anymore. I'm like, this went to a high school drama very quickly.
Yeah. What is interesting when you look up interviews, the thing is, in the German-speaking countries, like Germany, like Switzerland and Austria, the show isn't as popular as it is in the rest of the world, which is really interesting. And that's why the interviews with the actors is also even more interesting, because everyone is surprised by how well the English accent is from the actors of Dark. And it's really interesting. I think some of these the producers of Dark, they will also be involved in a new Netflix either show or movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
if you haven't already watched it, the one movie I do suggest, I watched that earlier today, was Knives Out.
Okay.
It's hilarious. It's really good, but it's also hilarious. All right, so Green's telling me to get off. She says you're talking too much.
No, I'm saying I need to head to sleep. So I'm going to say goodnight, you guys, because I have not taken care of myself today, and I need to go do that.
Oh, no. Yeah,
it's okay.
Go do that.
Get do some ear cleaning to get out that earworm.
Basically, I am going to be doing all the ear cleaning.
Turn off Twitter.
Yeah. Don't look at phone. That is the plan.
Well, Stream, you guys have a great night. We will talk to you next week.
Goodbye, stream.